Welcome back to the Creative Process Podcast with myself, Jared Klein. And I just want to, welcome you guys to episode 15. It's a little bit long overdue. There were two people that were going to be episode 15, but things kind of fell through. I had some technical difficulties the week prior, and then, now we're here. So episode 15 with the amazing guest, Hayden Culwell. If you're on YouTube, you can kind of see his face cam isn't here, but that's okay. You can see his name and everything. You know who's here. But if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast, we'll get into our guest very shortly here. But first, I want to throw out some thanks to the people listening. It's always awesome getting some feedback. Really, seeing how many people listen to this, even on YouTube and Spotify. It's awesome. It's really awesome. I never thought that we'd be getting as many listeners as we are, which is crazy. And in all honesty, starting out, I didn't care if there was 5 people listening or 500 people listening, as long as the people listening got some value from the podcast. That's the main focus. But today, we do have Hayden on, Hayden Culwell. Hayden, how you doing?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Had a really lackadaisical work day today, but I got a lot of personal stuff done. I just got back into looking into donate my plasma and stuff. Do you guys have BioLife services where you're from?
I haven't heard of that specific company, but there are a bunch of companies that do blood donating, and I get hit up by them a lot because I have the universal blood type, so I'm all over the place.
They're coming at you like mosquitoes.
Vampires, bro.
But yeah, I got a lot of personal stuff done today, which was crazy. Paid some bills, set up some.
It's always fun.
So yeah, honestly, set up some logistics for personal. Yeah, it was an amazing day. What did you get done today? You said you had a busy Monday.
Yeah, I did some pioneers work. I also have I had a meeting, and I have another meeting tomorrow. So most of Mondays are really busy at Pioneers because over the weekend things develop from our esports tournaments, and we just kind of get ready for the next week ahead. So Monday is always crunch time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it usually is. I work with Philly Esports. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they just had a huge Valorant tournament this past weekend. I think the 4th or the 5th through the 7th, and both the streaming days. I think Saturday, Sunday, the stream was live for 10, 11 hours. So the people working that tournament, and I give it out to the casters. The casters had a long fucking weekend, but
absolutely.
But yeah, today people kind of, they gave the people that were working the tournament the day off. So a lot of my work goes through the people that were working the tournament. So I kind of had a really lackluster Monday, but that's okay. You got to have those Mondays every once in a while.
Yeah, you get to work on you.
Exactly, 100%. That's the best part. But anyways, let's get into you. You're the guest, obviously. So get into, who you are. If you want to say where you're from, what you do, go as shallow or as deep as you want. I kind of leave this intro section kind of as open as you want to have it. So go for it, my man.
All right. Well, I'm Hayden Culwell. I'm from Merriam, Kansas, sort of a really small town area. I do graphic design currently, but mostly project management and creative direction for the Pioneers. But in school, I studied game development, specifically game design and animation / art design for games. So that's kind of what takes up my daily life, is just Pioneers work, and then studying more about game development, hoping to get into that a little bit sooner. But we'll see.
Yeah, I was looking at your portfolio a little bit. I've been following you on Twitter for a while, but I haven't had a chance to look at your portfolio. And I saw game design and 3D design in there, and that's something that was I didn't really expect to see. Granted, it is in your bio, but I didn't
it's
really
where I started, truly.
The stuff on there is insane. I mean, the 3D, you just have that shader in Blender, but your game design, that's crazy. It's insane. But yeah, it was something I was not expecting. So I guess, how did you get, since you started in the 3D and a game design type of area, how did you get into kind of segueing into, I guess, graphic design and then into esports as a career?
Well, I kind of got into design and 3D in the same portion. I always had just a love for games because it was kind of an escape from real life, and I was also just really into art, digital art in general. I've done like every practice on this earth to digital art. Kind of found what I liked, what I didn't like. I did actually start in like editing and graphic design way back in the day, like 10 years ago in the Call of Duty community online. And then I was a 3D artist at first for graphic design, and then I moved more towards graphic design. But when it came time for college, I was kind of burnt out on graphic design, and I felt like I couldn't really learn more from a college than I had learned in like my 5 years at that time of just freelancing in the community. So I really was passionate about games at that time, and I kind of just went into game design from there, and they just kind of molded together coming into Pioneers because I originally was picked up as a 3D artist for Pioneers doing advertisement work and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And it just kind of went up into project management because I had the skill and the knowledge of like multiple digital art professions. So it was kind of like a nice move for them to put me in project management specifically to understand like how the interns know what they're doing versus how I know what they should be doing, stuff
Hmm.
like that. So it was a cool move for that. It definitely wasn't where I planned to go, but here I am.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden in a manager position, that's cool. But yeah, I'm really into game design still, and truly love that. So it's really what pushed me to be more of an artist just in general and learn as much as I can in the community and run with it and see where I can go.
Hmm. So the example that you have, or at least one example that you have on your portfolio, I guess, of developing a game is
Mm.
more on the first-person shooter side of things. Or was that something you went into? I guess I didn't really. I guess I didn't really read. Let's see. 3D models, textures, and UI were all created by myself. Okay.
Mm.
So yeah, are you like? Do you play Call of Duty?
Yes, that's where I started. I really like first-person shooters. They've always been really easy for me, so I guess that's kind of why I liked them.
Slight
I've been
flex.
getting more into yeah, it's light flex. I've been getting more into like the more difficult games like League of Legends. Like people are oh Call of Duty doesn't take any skills, so now I gotta upgrade my games, figure out get into tougher games here. But FPSs are like one of the easier games to design, to be honest with you. Game development is really forward thinking in its tool creation. So there's just a lot of tools and assets that are just ready to use for FPS games. And that's one of the things we focus on when we do the educating for game design is just, hey, this is super easy. Here's drag and drop assets for FPS. And then you can just edit the little details yourself and kind of figure out the engine, figure out the UI and all that stuff. So
So do you ever find yourself while you're playing Call of Duty like critiquing like the
absolutely.
the maps?
100%. All of the games that I play, man. Game design has ruined my perception of games. It's the first thing I notice is horrible UX design. Like on games where the UX is too small, like the UI is too small, you can't click on things that you need to click on, you can't see on things. Like it's almost ruined games, but it has made it better for really good games that come out. You're like, man, this is a really good game. Like I have no complaints about this game, and that's what it's ruined it, but it's also made it better, you know?
Yeah, I feel like there's a sense of like, yes, you can critique some things, but when you see a good map, there's like a really
Yeah,
strong sense of appreciation and like, damn, I know how much went into this. Like I know
yeah,
how many hours these guys probably put into to make
absolutely.
this map or whatever you're kind of seeing. But yeah, game design is kind of like a place that really interested me when I like started looking into like college and stuff, because
Mhm.
I was kind of along the same lines as you. Like I was designing before I went to college, and I did end up going to college for graphic design, and
Nice.
but I looked into that, like a side of that, but the school that I went to didn't really have the best program for that. It was mainly
That's the main issue.
yeah, like it was mainly like more club centric rather than course centric. Like it was more
Hmm.
of like an extracurricular thing, and you had like buddies, and
An
there was
elective, yeah.
yeah, and there was like there was like one professor that didn't even work in like the art center that like I had my classes. So he was like a science teacher or whatever, or a science professor, and he had a background in game design, so he would like go in there for it. But Like it wasn't even like a part of course, it wasn't even a
A full
course, or
certificate or
wasn't
anything.
even like a curriculum at the university. So that kind of set the notion straight there. But it's always something that interested me. There's a guy on YouTube that I used to watch. He used to be like an OG designer in the gaming space, Flow Graphics. I don't know if you know who he is.
I've known a couple flows in my time, so I'm
That's
not
true.
sure I remember him specifically.
There probably has been a bunch of them, but
These
he
aliases.
he transitioned into like social media design and stuff, and then into like game design, designing in his own game actually and stuff. So he has like a series on YouTube. I'll actually find that and link it to you after we're done, because it's
Awesome.
actually really interesting. He created like an open world game. I don't know how difficult that is, but probably
It's
insane. But
it's not the design behind it that's as difficult. I mean, there can be really difficult programming depending on what types of things you want to happen,
mhm,
but it's more difficult in the storytelling sense and the content sense. Nowadays, when you have MMOs and stuff like that come out, there's just a lack of content behind everything.
mhm.
It's you can't release a game that's open world and then have nothing in the world, you know?
That's
It just
true.
doesn't make sense.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, it's a cool little thing. I'll definitely make sure to link that to you after we're done here. But let's get more into your current career path. And more broadly the whole esports kind of scene of everything. I kind of want to get your opinions on the esports design community. In my personal experience, it's gotten a lot better to where it has been in the
Mhm.
past. In the past, it was like
Absolutely.
super cutthroat. Like people were really toxic and like 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 the type of people that ruin it for everyone. Everyone knows those type of
Mhm.
people. But now I feel like it's more getting to be more constructive. And you have like well known. I don't want to put these people on a pedestal, but they really are. Like George Nowak, he
Mhm.
comes to mind every single time. Sesso, like those people, they put out more constructive content
Absolutely.
and are able to use their skills and use their knowledge to aid in the growth of the design community. That's what I think where it currently is. What about you? What do you think?
I'd have to agree. I mean, we've come a long way since the Call of Duty age, where I think it kind of started, and then we like hit the Fortnite age, and now we're out of the Fortnite age. But I think there's a lot of talent currently in the design community, more so than I would say originally existed back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the development of social media and like education through YouTube and stuff like that has really played a part in that and helping the younger folks kind of figure out what they want to do, how to do it, especially with those designers becoming content creators now, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
We've always like had that potential. I've always seen it, but there's never really been as big of a presence as like Sesso and Nowak.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really great that that exists because there is a need to kind of guide people within the industry of esports, not so much just like within teaching them how to do graphic design, but it's very specific to our industry and learning how that works.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's come a long way, and I mean, I think it's going to go even further than where it is now. I think it's going to get better, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Because I like to consider myself pretty lucky to have experience designing in two different industries. I've started in esports and gaming, and now as a career path, I see it more. How do I put this? As a career path, I see going into sports and like
Yeah.
working in that realm a little bit more advantageous and more, I guess, beneficial for a career.
Yes. Yeah.
Granted,
More stable.
yeah, exactly. I started out in esports and I saw people like, granted, you have those people that work for an organization for like 5 years, but then you also, you have amateur organizations that you work for that one can't afford a full timer, so they're basically on freelance, and that's the majority of the opportunities that you see, for like those starting designers. But moving into like the sports industry, I'm kind of went on a rant there, or like a little segue there that I didn't mean to. But moving into the sports industry, like the community side of things is almost at the point where like esports was in the beginning, like super toxic. No one really wants to, unless you have those select few people that you go to for critique and feedback. And like you're in a group chat. Like if you're not in a group chat and you're like not with the in crowd, you probably know what
Yeah.
like you're not getting shit. Like people don't care about you. It's like even if you ask for feedback, like to a random designer, they'll be like, yeah, whatever, it looks good. Like they won't really give you anything constructive.
Yeah.
To whereas the esports community, it's like, everyone realizes how competitive, which is crazy. Everyone realizes how competitive the esports industry is when it comes to being a designer. But like, I feel like everyone is a little bit more, I guess I'm saying everyone to broaden the scope, but like people are more open to giving that feedback to helping the designer. I think a part of it is like realizing how competitive the industry is and how still in an infant state the industry is.
Yeah, it's like in this industry, we're no longer competing with each other, but competing with our own selves to kind of build ourselves up to get that position that we want.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really healthy for our community. And I don't see it in a lot of other communities either. So, I mean, real world design, quote unquote, if you went to apply like down the street at a job, it's completely different than esports, and I actually like esports a lot more than real world design, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
Real world design focuses on like education and experience, whereas esports design and just esports in general, you can be anything you want as long as you find the right connections and as long as you have the right portfolio, as long as you have the right interview.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely more personal based in esports, and I think that's a good thing for us, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I also think like the part of a graphic designer, like the main aspect of a graphic designer when you're hired by an organization is to, actually there's two things: A, solve a problem, and B, in end all be all, sell. I had a great conversation with Pavan Paquetti, I think his last name is, on I think episode 14 actually. But like, you working in esports, you get a chance to even like starting like working in social media and like creating assets for social media. That's like more like, whether the designer realizes it or not, it's formed towards the audience, towards the direct audience that the organization is about. So like a lot of the designers coming up in esports, they're realizing these, I guess, industry, like the design industry type of aspects, like marketing, like main marketing aspects, like design to sell, knowing who your audience is, knowing where the audience is going to look, how to curate it, like how to curate the organization of the design. Like, I feel like that's a huge focus in esports because one, like all these, like it's an insane social media presence. Like every esports organization has, and is pretty much dedicated on an insane social media presence. That's where a lot of their audience is. Like,
yes, 100%.
I feel like the online sense of esports is so huge. So like now, with actually the whole world, pretty much the whole like social media world segueing into social media being so dominant as a communication platform, like being able to learn and get thrown into that whole design mindset of how to design for people that are following your brand is crazy. It's so beneficial as a designer.
Mm-hmm. It can work in many industries too. I mean, we went from a really art-based industry, from like, ooh, this looks pretty, that has cool colors on it, to like understanding the marketing and advertisement, like you said, behind it, like readability of the design, telling them what it is. Like you can have a G Fuel tub on a picture, and then like, okay, what are these? Do these big companies know what G Fuel is? Like, you kind of gotta give them a little bit of leeway there. Like, okay, it's an energy supplement. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely have merged more from like the artistic side of it to the professionalism side, where you're starting to take into account not just the design principles but also the informational part of the graphic, and that's super beneficial for even outside of esports as well. I mean, if you wanted to ever leave esports and possibly find a more stable area of expertise, I mean, you're going to have that type of design on your portfolio for them to understand that you understand how to sell a product with your design. So definitely would focus on that. And that's the kind of critique that I try to give as much as I can, as, not just does it look pretty, but does it do its job? The graphic needs to do its job at the end of the day.
100%. I think the professionalism and everything is moving in tandem with the growth of the esports industry, which is crazy, which is amazing. Honestly, like getting into esports like 5-6 years ago, as I did. How long ago were you? How long have you been in esports?
Esports particularly, I mean, like 5 years, I would say.
Yeah.
I've kind of lost track of time after just being in gaming industry. I mean, I watched Call of Duty go from game battles to CWL to CDL to all this stuff. So
Hmm.
can't truly remember where it started, but I have been a part of larger orgs like Team Caliber back in the day before they disbanded.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, like seeing the evolution of the industry itself, like says a lot on how the design in the industry has evolved as well, which I mean that's with any industry, but like seeing the designers and the quality of design and like like you're saying, the professionalism even step up towards and also be as good as industry standard design. Like I think that says something for the esports community in itself.
yeah. Creative has took such a leap in this industry. I would like to, I mean, orgs have been taking a leap in understanding how crucial a creative team is to
Hmm.
sell your brand. I mean, it was one of the first things we set up at Pioneers when I started a year ago, and we had like 800 followers, and we had really good leadership that was part of a marketing and advertisement company and still is, and that's what I attribute to most of our success to. Just understanding how to market a brand, but they also understand that the creative side behind it is truly what projects your brand. I mean,
Hmm.
we went from back in the day where nobody would even think about paying a graphic designer to now it's just kind of a thing that you have to do, thing that you should be doing. We like to harp on brands that pay like $100 a month to designers, but they're making like 3 designs a day.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's absolutely correct to do so. It's just it's so crucial to pay designers and to continue to teach brands even that, like, hey, this might be a different like offbeat industry, but it doesn't mean that graphic design and creative in general isn't necessary and isn't necessary to pay. So
Hmm. I honestly think I like how you mentioned that like that was one of the first things that pioneers like went into. Like a creative department is so essential, and having
mhm,
people that understand, the creative aspects and how to visually represent the brand as efficient as possible, it is so important. I laugh at like amateur organizations that are like, oh, we're gonna make it all the way, like we're gonna do so well, but they aren't open to
they only
investing.
focus on teams.
Exactly, they're not open to investing in the brand development and visual identity of
They got the
said
Microsoft Paint
organization.
logo.
Exactly, like it's and like the shitty thing as well is like some of those organizations have
Mhm,
amazing teams, like
absolutely.
teams that perform, you wouldn't even expect it, but the brand behind those teams is so lackluster that there's no
Yeah,
what am I saying, like there's no consistency,
value
yeah,
and
then
like
there's no value, and there's not enough, there's how do I say it? Like the players only bring so much,
yeah.
there's not enough, maybe like
The investors look for just value in a brand overall, that
mm-hmm,
because investors aren't in esports. They have to understand that
mm-hmm,
investors don't look at your kick-ass Valorant team like, oh yeah, let me invest in that. They're looking at the value of your brand and, okay, will this brand continue to make kick-ass decisions on their team? Will they continue to grow
mm-hmm,
their brand? Will they help me grow my brand? Will they project themselves past this current esports team? That's what they're looking for. They're not
mm-hmm,
just looking for great teams anymore, because it's an entertainment industry. It's not just a sports industry the way that NFL is.
mm-hmm. I love how you put that, it's an entertainment industry. That's why like that's why you see so many teams getting big time content creators and like
Hmm.
those type of things,
Absolutely.
rather than just having those insane professional teams. Like at the end of the day, it's entertainment. It's who can bring the most valued entertainment in the scene. And I mean, everyone can think of those teams that are doing it really well, like 100 Thieves, FaZe, the top
Yeah.
teams. Like they're the top teams for a reason. you know.
And I mean, the even more interesting thing to me is that game developers are also starting to realize the value of esports, and that's really awesome. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, back in the day, Call of Duty did not care about who was playing their game for money. I mean, but then they realized that they could put on an NFL level production and
Mm-hmm.
people will watch and it'll generate money. And like League of Legends is one of the biggest games ever in the world, and they decided, hey, we're going to have like multi-million dollar industry of esports, and it's
Mm-hmm.
going great for them.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I think the old world is starting to understand the new world of esports and the entertainment industry as it grows with online issues. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's great. Can't wait for more.
Oh, 100%. The future of the esports industry is, it's granted it's so unpredictable, but it's so exhilarating. Like I'm
Mhm.
just so excited to see where everything ends up. But moving more into one of the I guess latter things I want to talk about in the podcast, not so much centric, not so much esports centric, but more personally centric, as a graphic designer. Um, Centered around developing a well-rounded kind of set of design skills, not specifically in social media
Yes.
designs like you see in esports, but jumping into those different mediums like print, 3D, motion, and you can name a bunch of them. But being able to design like that, how important do you think that is, and how does it apply to your day to day as a creative director?
I mean, if you're going into project management, it's absolutely a key factor to understand what is going on in all of your pipelines. Because as the creative director, I am the voice and the link between the creative team and all of our projects to the rest of the team. When a leader doesn't understand what this design versus that design is, it's my job to understand that. So any sort of director position or lead position inside of the creative, you're absolutely going to need to know multiple mediums. As a graphic designer yourself, it's always good to learn and it's always good to understand the relationship between those mediums. However, just understand that specific job posts have their own description. We recently hired a thumbnail designer intern, and all I care about is them knowing thumbnail designs.
Mm-hmm.
I specifically have them doing that because it's going to be such a big process for us to set up our YouTube as pioneers. So I'm not looking for them to understand, stream graphics. I'm not going to have them do that in our team. So I would just really pay attention to what you want to do in the industry and understand that yes, versatility is great and it's always going to be a plus, but just understand that depending on the position you want is what you should be focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much you can do inside of 3D, inside of video editing, graphic design, that it's really difficult to choose a discipline. But at the end of the day, there will be job positions that are specifically one discipline, and that's really what they're going to look for. They have like pluses all the time, like, oh, it's great if you also know this and also know
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a portfolio that's just, sporadic and all over the place, it's not going to get you the interview.
Mm-hmm.
So understand that your profession needs to have a direction, but you can also learn other things around it. So
Mm-hmm. The way I think of this, it all depends on where you want to end up as a career
mhm.
and what you're applying for. Like with it, like if you see consistencies in those job descriptions that you're looking at and that you're wanting to apply for, shape your portfolio around that.
So crucial, and your resume and your
Mm-hmm.
cover letter.
Exactly. So I mean, you're hearing it from a creative director who's, I mean, you are, you're
I
in
do
the
the
process
hiring,
of, yeah, exactly. You're in the process of hiring. So who 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 else to be more credible than you, when it comes to this type of subject. But like, yes, I like how you put it. Yes, you want to be a little bit versed in multiple things, but I think curation is a lot of the process when it comes to truly identifying yourself as, I do marketing and social media design, but I also attribute or add motion to that, and like find a way. I just bumped my mic. I'm sorry if that. Find a way to like connect all those. Like a great connection that you're seeing now is 3D, social, and motion. You're seeing those
Yep.
connections all over the place. I guess I know I said I wasn't gonna get this like more connected with esports, but that's what we're talking about. you see those three types of different types of design mold into one, and like you see those designers killing it. Those designers that are really good at those three things and like specialize in those three things are killing it. I'm not saying that's the only thing you should go into, but those are
Mhm.
the examples you like as designers. You look at those people and realizing, okay, they're curating their skills and marketing their skills and um, I guess fine tuning their skills that they know they're good at, and attributing that to what jobs and what places they apply for or go into or freelance clients that they get. It's all a big combination of things.
Mm-hmm.
I think a big skill that's coming up within the esports industry is print. And
Yes,
like
absolutely.
designing for print, or even like not necessarily designing for print, but also making it able to be viewed digitally. Like everyone can design a PDF, but like designing a PDF or like a presentation, like a deck or like a book or
Mm-hmm.
something for print, and its sole purpose is for print, I feel like is going to be, at least in my experience, is different than how you would design it for both mediums. What do you think?
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's so many little tedious different types of things you have to do for a print design. I mean, like the depth of your Photoshop project, the size of it, all of that
Mm-hmm.
matters incredibly. And I mean, printing like a rasterized image versus a vector image is always going to be different. So
Mm-hmm.
it's absolutely becoming a thing. And I mean, I've even created like the Pioneers flag and like the event banner that we have when we go to local events, and just kind of like stand it up. It's a little vertical like pull down thing.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't ever seen it before, so that was interesting. But like it's a marketing tool. It truly is, and that's what esports brands are becoming. I mean, you see like all these sports brands that have a ton of merch, a ton of printed merch, and esports is like, yeah, we should do that. We should market us everywhere that we can,
Mm-hmm.
billboards, stuff like that. You just have to understand that it's not so much of an art piece as that is a design, and that means that designs have guidelines that you have to follow. So that's what the industry, I think, is gonna have to work on next, is kind of understanding like the difference between making a concept and making a design. I see a lot of like, for instance, Rocket League skins everywhere, and then I look at them, and from designing a Rocket League skin for Rocket League, I'm like, that wouldn't work. It's just it's sad because they're all so pretty, but then like I've received like the documents from Rocket League on how to create them, on what their guidelines are, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
just to understand that you can be as awesome as you want, you can be as creative as you want, but at the end of the day, it's the guidelines that you have to follow. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that goes for print, especially for print.
For sure. So something we do towards the end of the podcast, no pun intended, but I do ask the people that I have on what their creative process is. I usually leave it open, but since you're a creative director, I want to go from that side of things. So from start to finish for a project, how do you kind of work with your team and everything, and go from A to Z within that project?
Well, it's very different than being like the actual artist, because as a creative director, you kind of are the organizer, the planner, the helper, the distributor, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So it really starts from leadership coming to me with some sort of idea that they want. Say it's recently we did an event, I think, with a third party. We hosted an esports event. So somebody comes to me and they're like, "Hey, we want to have this esport event. Here's some of the minor details. Here's what we want from you and from Create." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I go and I write a bunch of documents. I'm like, all right, we're gonna need this asset, this asset, this asset, and then I'm like, okay, who in my creative team is best for this asset, this asset, and this asset?
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I just have to manage timelines, manage the art direction of the pieces, because we don't have any other art directors in the team besides me, technically. So it's going about getting all the guidelines from leadership, putting them into paper, because that's part of my job. I mean, part of my job is a desk job for sure. I write a bunch of documents, and then I send those out to the designers, and the designers get to work, and I check in pretty much daily on them,
Mm-hmm.
a couple days. Then we have the revision process, obviously, especially revision process with sponsors. If the sponsors are involved at all, it means that they have to approve of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of slides from me onto production. Usually, if there's like a stream or something like that's going to happen, then I just deliver them on to whoever it goes to. So the
Mm-hmm.
designers are part of the process that I give them, and I'm sort of part of the entire process. And then leadership is like the idea, the brain behind it all. So it's a very long, tedious process, but because we have such good communication in Pioneers, it's become a lot easier over the past year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't really understand about creative direction, is how much of a management job it actually is. Most creative directors don't even have a type of art degree. It's quite literally a marketing and advertisement degree.
Mm-hmm.
So that's half of my day, really. My creative process is the marketing and advertisement side. And the bonus of understanding the artistic and the industry side makes me like a double-edged sword for being able to be the art director as well.
Mm-hmm.
When originally it would be somebody who's more artistic that would be an art director versus a creative director.
Mm-hmm.
So very long process. A lot of communicating, a lot of talking, a lot of revisions from my creative process side. But we get it done, and it gets out well.
Mm-hmm. You definitely got a lot of moving parts within that whole process, probably.
Absolutely. So many phone calls, meetings, sending files back and forth, all of that, all day.
The best,
kind of like I'm on call.
Yeah, the best part of it.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, man. I mean, we talked about some personal experience, but the main side of things that we talked about was things design related, organizational things related to the esports industry, which is awesome. Haven't really had the opportunity to talk super in depth on the esports industry, especially from with a person that has, I guess, a management position, especially on the creative side within a good sized organization and a reputable organization. So this podcast has just been filled with awesome material for designers that either want to get into esports or are already in esports and are looking to maybe jump into that management position, be a creative director, or get into a team and work with a creative director. So I do appreciate all the information you've provided. This has been an awesome episode, Hayden. I am very grateful that you took the time out of your day to be on the podcast. Again, episode 15 was a little bit delayed, but I think it's been an awesome one. It's been super awesome.
Thank you for inviting me, man. It was a great time.
No problem. Well, anyways, guys, this has been episode 15 of the Creative Process Podcast. If you guys want to connect with your boy Hayden, all his links will be down below. I will definitely have his Twitter, that's for sure, and also his portfolio. So if you want to take a look at some of his work, you guys can do that. But anyways, guys, episode 15, this has been amazing. Hayden, just a little bit another thank you for being on today. I can't give enough thanks to the people that are on. Sometimes it's like a half an hour, but sometimes it can, you don't really know jumping into this how long it can go. But again, thank you. I really appreciate it. But anyways, guys, I will see you guys in episode 15. Episode 16. Have a great rest of your week, and make sure you tell someone that you love them. All right. Peace, guys. Have a good one.